online virtual segment of the BRICS Summit this year. It's called Partnership for Global Stability, Shared Security, as well as Innovative Growth. That is the theme for this year. Leaders from the member states, of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, as well as South Africa, will be focusing on strengthening the bloc's relations in order to have more impact and influence on the global stage. Let's cross live to that now, where the president of Russia, that's Vladimir Putin, is speaking.
На первый план вышла задача выработки по линии БРИКС коллективных шагов по борьбе с инфекцией, наращиванию взаимодействия эпидемиологических служб, защите жизни и здоровья наших граждан. Кстати, сама тема сотрудничества в сфере здравоохранения не является для БРИКС новой. В этом смысле мы оказались, условно говоря, даже в более выигрышной ситуации, чем некоторые другие страны. Что я имею в виду? Напомню, что 5 лет назад в Уфимской декларации зафиксирована договоренность совместно работать по вопросам противодействия распространению инфекционных заболеваний, включая, хочу это подчеркнуть, коронавирусы нового типа. В развитии этой договоренности государствами БРИКС создана система раннего предупреждения эпидемии. Так что в ситуации с COVID-19 нам было на что опереться. Участники БРИКС смогли оперативно отреагировать и принять конкретные меры в борьбе с пандемией. Отмечу, что Российским фондом прямых инвестиций заключены соглашения с индийскими и бразильскими партнерами о проведении клинических испытаний вакцины «Спутник Ви», а с фармкомпаниями в Китае и Индии об открытии на территории этих стран центров производства нашей вакцины. Причем не только для собственных потребностей, но и для третьих стран. Думаю, что это очень важно. Вакцины есть российские, они работают эффективно, безопасно. Вопрос в том, чтобы осуществить массовое производство. Это не то чтобы проблема, но это то, перед решением чего мы стоим. Тот вопрос, перед решением которого мы стоим. И, конечно, здесь очень важно объединять усилия по массовому выпуску в широкий гражданский оборот этой продукции. К слову, в России зарегистрирована вторая вакцина от коронавируса, Эпивак Корона, и на подходе третья. В их производстве и применении мы готовы взаимодействовать с партнерами по БРИКС, как я уже только что сказал. Полагаем также важным ускорить формирование Центра разработки и исследования вакцин БРИКС. О чем мы по инициативе южноафриканских друзей, кстати говоря, условились 2 года назад еще на саммите в Йоханнесбурге. С учетом пандемии, каждая из наших стран в текущем году столкнулась с необходимостью предпринимать экстренные шаги, чтобы поддержать национальную промышленность, финансы, социальную сферу, заниматься восстановлением своих экономик, их возвращением на траекторию устойчивого роста. Именно на это ориентирована подготовленная к саммиту стратегия экономического.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to just cut out of that, of course, because, of course, it is in Russian there with the president of Russia speaking as well in his home language. He is set to chair, of course, the BRICS nations as well then in the coming year as well. So we're going to try and get you some English with regards to that and kind of get a sense of where he thinks things are going, particularly for the BRICS nations and how they plan to deal with the rest of the world and their relations there as well. We're going to take a quick Vladimir Putin is currently speaking, and we do have some of that English translation as well then for you. Of course, the theme for this year, Partnership for Global Stability, Shared Security and Innovative Growth. Let's cross live to that now.
In the virtual format, an online cinema festival was held, and we had agreed upon that, dear colleagues. For the first time, a meeting of sports ministers was held. It coordinated a memorandum of understanding in fitness and sports, and the dialogue between tourism agencies of our countries is well established. Dear colleagues, the situation in global and regional security remains complicated. International terrorism and drug trafficking are still formidable challenges. The cybercrime has been scaled up considerably. Dangerous destabilization is observed in the Middle East and South and North Africa. Armed standoffs continue in Libya and Yemen. A lot is to be done for the political settlement in Syria. Risks of aggravation of situation in Iraq, Lebanon, Afghanistan and the Gulf area linger on. Besides, the September saw an aggravation of the conflict in the Nagorno-Karabakh. The Russian side undertook most strenuous efforts to help stem the hostilities between the two nations friendly to us and urge them to find a compromise solution. As a result of our mediation, accords were reached on the 9th of November on the full ceasefire and the deployment of Russian peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh. All that was enshrined in a trilateral declaration and statement signed by the Presidents of Russia, Azerbaijan and Prime Minister of Armenia. It's important that the above accords are observed and the hostilities have been ceased altogether and the situation is stabilizing. Thus, we have created the conditions for the long-lasting and full settlement of the crisis on an equal footing in the interests of the Azerbaijan and Armenian peoples. It is satisfactory that the BRICS countries maintain close cooperation on regional, international issues. We have prepared a program document, which is the BRICS counterterrorism strategy prepared for the summit. Anti-narcotics and anti-corruption cooperation of BRICS countries has been expanded, as well as in the sphere of the international cyber securities. We have been holding contacts of BRICS high representatives for security issues, as well as foreign ministers and our missions to the UN. In the year of the 75th anniversary, in the victory over Nazism in World War II, all the BRICS countries unanimously spoke in condemnation of the glorification of the Nazis and their disciples. Attempts to revisit the outcomes of the war and to revive the ideology of aggression and intolerance were condemned, and the participants of our alliance have been consistently speaking in favor of constructive relations with other nations, integration groups and international organizations, including in the BRICS Plus and BRICS outreach forums that proved their efficiency. To our common mind, such interaction should definitely be based on the principles for respecting of the UN Charter and basic rules of international law, as well as the sovereign equality of nations and non-interference in domestic affairs and peaceful dispute resolution. Dear colleagues, in the view of the forthcoming G20 summit held by Saudi Arabia on the 21st and 22nd of November, let me note that the approaches of BRICS countries on most items of that entity's agenda are close or coincide. That is true for reform of the key global institutions, the International Monetary Fund, the World Trade Organization and the WHO, World Health Organization. BRICS directly contributed to shaping a G20 comprehensive package of measures to overcome the negative impacts of the pandemic, with the focus put on the recovery of the global value chains and the open nature of international trade. In this same vein, the Russian initiative on the green corridors has been promoted. Those corridors are free from wars and sanctions, mostly referring to the humanitarian supplies of food and medical items. In closing, dear colleagues, let me reiterate that the Russian Federation keeps prioritizing and will prioritize further development of cooperation with BRICS countries. We'll do our utmost to consolidate our positions at the international arena. I'd like to thank all of you for your friendly support and for the well-coordinated and fruitful interaction this year. Thank you so much.
Dear colleagues, let us proceed with our work. And now I give the floor to Prime Minister of the Indian Republic, Mr. Narendra Modi. Please, you have the floor.
Your Excellency President Putin, Your Excellency President Xi, Your Excellency President Ramaphosa, Your Excellency President Bolsonaro, I would like to begin by congratulating President Putin for successfully chairing BRICS. Thanks to your guidance and initiatives, BRICS was able to maintain its momentum even during the pandemic. Before I go further, I would like to wish President Ramaphosa my best wishes on the occasion of his birthday. Excellencies, the theme of this summit, BRICS Partnership for Global Stability, Shared Security, and Innovative Growth, is not only relevant but also far-sighted. Important geostrategic changes are taking place in the world. They will continue to have an impact on stability, security, and growth. And in all these three areas, BRICS will play an important role. Excellencies, this year, on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of the Second World War, we pay homage to the brave soldiers who lost their lives. During this war, more than 2.5 million brave soldiers from India as well were active on fronts such as Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, on several fronts. This year is also the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the United Nations. As a founder member of the United Nations, India has always been a firm supporter of multilateralism. In Indian culture as well, the entire world is considered as one family. Thus, it is natural for us to support an institution like the United Nations. We have been firmly committed to the values of the UN. It is India that has lost the maximum number of brave soldiers in UN peacekeeping operations. However, today, the multilateral system is going through a crisis. Questions are being raised on the credibility and effectiveness of institutions of global governance. The main reason for this is that they have not changed appropriately with the times. They are based even today on the mindset and realities that existed 75 years ago. India believes that UN Security Council reforms are very necessary. On this subject, we expect the support of our BRICS partners. Apart from the United Nations, there are several other international institutions that are not functioning in accordance with present-day realities. Reforms are also required in institutions such as the WTO, the IMF, and the WHO. Excellencies, terrorism is the biggest problem the world is facing today. We will have to ensure that countries that support and help terrorists are also held guilty, and we need to fight this problem in a united manner. We are pleased that during the Russian chairmanship of BRICS, the BRICS counter-terrorism strategy has been finalized. This is an important achievement, and during its chairmanship, India will take this work forward. Excellencies, BRICS economies will play an important role in the post-COVID global recovery. BRICS countries represent over 42% of the global population, and our countries are among the key engines of global growth. There is a lot of scope for BRICS countries to increase their mutual trade. Our mutual institutions and systems, such as the BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism, the new Development Bank, the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, and customs cooperation, etc., can also make our contribution to global recovery effective. In India, under our Self-Reliant India campaign, we have started a comprehensive reforms process.
This campaign is based on the conviction that a self-reliant and resilient India can be a force multiplier for the post-COVID global economy and can make a significant contribution to global value chains. We saw an example of this during COVID times also, when, due to the production capacity of Indian pharma industry, we could send necessary medicines to more than 150 countries. As I mentioned earlier also, our vaccine production and delivery capacity will, in this way, be useful in the interest of humanity. India and South Africa have proposed certain waivers in the intellectual property agreements with regard to COVID-19 vaccines, treatment, and testing. We hope that other BRICS countries will support this proposal. During its BRICS presidency, India will work on intensifying BRICS cooperation in the areas of digital health and traditional medicine. In this difficult year also, under the Russian presidency, several initiatives were taken to enhance people-to-people relations. For example, the BRICS Film Festival, the Young Diplomat Forum, and the Young Scientist Forum. For these, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to President Putin. Excellencies, BRICS completes 15 years in 2021. Our Sherpas could make a report evaluating the various decisions taken by us in the past years. During our presidency in 2021, we will make efforts towards further strengthening intra-BRICS cooperation in all three pillars of BRICS. We will work towards strengthening intra-BRICS solidarity and develop a concrete institutionalized framework in order to achieve this objective. Once again, I would like to again acknowledge and appreciate all the efforts made by President Putin. Thank you so much for listening.
Спасибо большое.
Thanks a lot. Your Excellency Prime Minister Modi, you said that in the Indian culture, the whole world is a common family. This is a fundamental idea, the basic idea that we should be guided by. But at the same time, you have outlined some threats that we face, namely terrorism. You said that this is one of the most relevant and topical issues of today. And I cannot but mention one phrase, there's always a black sheep in a family. Unfortunately, there are some people that fall out of the general context. They try to impose their own agenda. And this threat, just like the threat of COVID-19 pandemic, should always be within our sight. And the idea of India to make a digital medicine one of the key elements is quite an interesting and important area. And now I give the floor to the President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi. You have the floor.
Your Excellency, President Putin, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Modi, Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, Your Excellency, President Bolsonaro. I wish to begin by thanking President Putin and the Russian government for their thoughtful organization of this BRICS Summit. Let me also take this opportunity to say happy birthday to President Ramaphosa. Around the world, COVID-19 is posing a grave threat to people's life and well-being. The global public health system is facing a severe test. Human society is going through the most serious pandemic in the past century. International trade and investment have shrunk considerably. Factors of uncertainty and instability are numerous. The world economy is witnessing the worst recession since the Great Depression in the 1930s. Unilateralism, protectionism, and acts of bullying are becoming rampant. And the deficit in governance, trust, development, and peace is widening instead of narrowing. Despite all this, we remain convinced that the theme of our times, peace and development, has not changed, and that the trend toward multipolarity and economic globalization cannot be turned around. We must keep people's welfare close to heart and pursue the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind. Through concrete actions, we will contribute our share to making the world a better place for everyone. First, we need to uphold multilateralism and safeguard peace and stability in our world. History teaches us that multilateralism, equity, and justice can keep war and conflict at bay, while unilateralism and power politics will inflate dispute and confrontation. We BRICS countries must hold high the banner of multilateralism. We must endeavor to safeguard the UN-centered international system and the international order underpinned by international law. We need to champion the concept of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security. We need to oppose interference in others' internal affairs, as well as unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction. With concerted efforts, we we will foster a peaceful and stable environment for development. Second, we need to enhance solidarity and coordination and come together to meet the COVID-19 challenge. The coronavirus is still causing havoc in many places. Securing a worldwide victory against the pandemic remains an uphill journey. What is important is that we put people's life and health first. It is important to step up international coordination and response and support WHO's crucial leadership role in this endeavor. As we speak, Chinese companies are working with their Russian and Brazilian partners on phase 3 clinical trials of vaccines. And we are prepared to have cooperation with South Africa and India as well. China has joined the COVAX facility. We will actively consider providing vaccines to BRICS countries where there is a need. To support the development of the BRICS Vaccine R&D Center, China has designated its own national center. I propose that we convene a BRICS symposium on traditional medicine to explore its role in coronavirus prevention and treatment. We need to overcome division with unity and pull the maximum global synergy to beat the virus. Third, we need to pursue openness and innovation and promote global economic recovery. To stabilize the economy while controlling the pandemic is a pressing task facing all countries. BRICS countries need to strengthen macroeconomic policy coordination, follow through on the initiative on facilitating cross-border flow of people and goods, and keep industrial and supply chains safe and open to better enable the resumption of business activities and economic recovery. The practice of using the pandemic to pursue deglobalization will end up hurting one's own interests and the common interests of all. We need to stand firm for building an open world economy and reject abuse of the national security concept for protectionist purposes. We need to strengthen cooperation on scientific and technological innovation to bring about high-quality development. China will work with other parties to flesh out the BRICS partnership on new industrial revolution at a faster pace. We will open in Xiamen, Fujian province, a BRICS partnership on new industrial revolution innovation center, and we welcome the active participation of fellow BRICS countries. Not long ago, China launched a global initiative on data security. We look forward to support from our fellow BRICS countries. Fourth, we need to prioritize people's livelihood and promote sustainable global development. All our efforts, from clearing the impact of COVID-19 and getting back to a normal life, to ending conflicts and humanitarian crises, ultimately depend on people-centered development. We need to call on the international community to place the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the heart of international development cooperation. Poverty eradication must be made a primary goal, and more resources must be channeled to poverty reduction, education, health, and infrastructure development. We need to support the UN's coordinating role, spread the fruits of development to more developing countries, and better address the needs of underprivileged groups. Fifth, we need to pursue green and low-carbon development and strive for harmony between man and nature. Global warming will not stop due to COVID-19. To tackle climate change, we must never relax our efforts. We need to implement the Paris Agreement in good faith, stick to the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, and provide more help to developing countries. Recently, I announced at the UN China's initiative to scale up its nationally determined contributions. We will strive to peak carbon dioxide emissions by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. You can count on China to keep its promise. Colleagues, the recently concluded 5th plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee adopted recommendations for formulating China's 14th five-year plan. The plenum underscored that China will finish building a moderately prosperous society in all respects within the set time frame and will embark on a new journey next year toward fully building a modern socialist country. Based on the scientific analysis of the new stage of China's development, we will stay committed to the new development philosophy and actively foster a new development paradigm with domestic circulation as a mainstay and domestic and international circulations reinforcing each other. We will redouble efforts to expand domestic demand, deepen reform across the board, and promote innovation in science and technology to add impetus to China's economic growth. China will not shut its door of opening up. It will embrace the world with more open arms. China will be more vigorous in integrating with the global market and will take greater initiative in deepening international cooperation. In so doing, China will create more opportunities and space for global recovery and growth. All of us are indeed passengers in the same boat. When the wind is strong and the tides are high, we must be even more focused on our direction. We must keep pace and work as a team to break the waves and navigate steadily toward a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Xi Jinping. First and foremost, China was the first to face the global pandemic. And China has thus shown to the world that one can successfully fight this pandemic. I would like to congratulate you, Mr. President, and all our Chinese friends on how you have managed to tackle the pandemic, and the result is indeed significant. It's clear and simple, and it is a great example for others. It is quite evident, and it is important for the BRICS countries not to close up, but rather to open up to each other when it comes to combating the pandemic. We're not only opening our scientific institutions and our borders for experts, we are also open for the promotion of vaccines. We are also open for manufacturing and exchange of medicines when it comes to combating the pandemic. And my colleague would agree that we support your initiative to hold a symposium that you mentioned. It is very important in current conditions. We also welcome the initiatives of China aimed at resolving global environmental problems. So thank you very much for your statement. Now I give the floor over to South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa.
Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Your Excellency President Xi Jinping, and Your Excellency President Jair Bolsonaro, ministers and officials, allow me to express my gratitude for the good wishes you have all extended to me on my birthday. I would also like to join other leaders in thanking and congratulating President Putin for the organization of this summit. We are indeed meeting at a time of global crisis, a time that calls for cooperation and dialogue between the nations of the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has damaged economies and devastated livelihoods across the world. The disease has put immense strain on public health systems, and significant resources have had to be redirected in a number of countries to containing the spread of the virus. Trade and investment has been disrupted, as has global supply and demand. For emerging economies already facing challenges of poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment, the pandemic has taken an even greater toll. As BRICS countries, we are called upon to unite, to work together, to demonstrate our collective will, and to provide leadership. This pandemic has taught us the necessity of strengthening health systems and being prepared for future emergencies of this nature and scale. It has shown us the importance of investing in science, technology, and innovation. Above all, it has taught us that international solidarity must pave the way to stability, security, and economic growth. In this regard, I wish to commend the Russian Federation for its leadership of BRICS during this challenging time. As South Africa and the African continent more broadly, we are grateful for the solidarity we have received from our BRICS partners, both through bilateral assistance and support for our continental response. While African leaders acted swiftly to contain the disease, it will take a long time for our economies to recover. We therefore endorse the call made by the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for a new global deal. This includes a more inclusive and balanced multilateral trading system, the reform of debt architecture, and greater access to affordable credit for developing countries. In the spirit of this new great global deal, we call on the international community and our BRICS partners to support a comprehensive stimulus package for African countries. This will include African countries and enable them to contain the disease and rebuild our damaged economies. The new development bank has a significant role to play in all this. To date, the bank has approved $4 billion of COVID-related emergency assistance projects, including 1 billion rand to South Africa to support our health response and social relief measures. We welcome the indications from the new development bank that it aims to provide up to $10 billion in crisis-related assistance and to support economic recovery efforts. We further welcome the commitment by our health ministers to promote access to affordable, quality medicines and to make diagnostic tools available within BRICS countries. South Africa is participating in several research initiatives with continental and international partners, including the global effort to develop, manufacture, and to distribute a COVID-19 vaccine. The current experience demonstrates the need to accelerate the establishment of the BRICS Vaccine Research and Development Center in South Africa as agreed in the 2018 Johannesburg Declaration. We support the initiative to establish an integrated early warning system for preventing mass infectious diseases and believe this is a project that could be supported by the new development bank. Investing in science, technology, and innovation will not only prepare us for future health emergencies, but it will also enable us to confront other global challenges. Our ministers responsible for science and their funding agencies should be commended for the speed and efficiency with which they mobilize the capacities of our BRICS Science and Technology and Innovation Framework Program in their response to COVID-19. We should, to step up cooperation in this area, support the recovery effort. Since restoring our economies to good health is a goal that is common to all of us, it is timely that we are undertaking a review of the BRICS Strategy for Economic Partnership 2025. We remain committed to achieving sustainable development in BRICS and to the creation of opportunities for all. To fast-track our economic recovery, trade and investment ties between BRICS countries must be strengthened. The pandemic has exposed the vulnerability of an overdependence on fragile global supply systems, even for basic foods and essential medical products. As African countries, it has shown us the need to build more resilient national and regional supply chains to enable the continent of Africa to respond more effectively to such crises in future. This week, South Africa will host its third investment conference. It is a platform to share with investors the progress that we've made in economic reforms and to showcase our country's potential as an investment destination. A central pillar of our national recovery is to diversify and upgrade our industrial capacity, supporting the wider processes of industrialization across the African continent. We call on our BRICS partners to ramp up investment in not just South Africa, but across the continent, particularly in the manufacturing sector. Investors from BRICS countries will realize considerable benefit by investing in Africa, particularly with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area from January 2021. It is clear from this pandemic that we must strengthen multilateralism as the preferred means to advance our mutual interests. We reiterate our call for reform of the UN Security Council to ensure that it is more representative and inclusive in line with the principle of sovereign equality of all states. We need to ensure that trade rules take the interests of developing countries into account, particularly with respect to development through industrialization. Reform of the World Trade Organization is therefore key to rebalancing global trading systems and ensuring that its benefits are shared more equally. As we resolved in 2019 Brasilia Declaration, we must continue to collaborate through the BRICS partnership to address the problems of under-invoicing, which has a profound impact on our industrial development and employment goals. Since its founding, BRICS has stood as a testament to the power of solidarity. Our meeting today, in the midst of economic and social turmoil, is evidence that our partnership is strong and enduring. Working together, Let us continue our onward march towards shared peace, security, prosperity, not only for our respective countries, but for all of humanity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to highlight several key points I got from your statement. First and foremost, thank you for supporting the establishment of the BRICS Vaccine Research and Development Center, because we do indeed need to have and develop vaccines. Now, we also need to support the establishment of the early warning system for various infectious diseases. I would also like to highlight your commitment to strengthening the system of various supply and demand chains. First and foremost, I'm talking about medicines and food products. This is indeed in line with what Russia suggested with its initiatives on green corridors. Our country suggests that we eliminate all kinds of barriers and sanctions in trade, at least during the pandemic, and at least with regard to those countries and the citizens of those countries who are in dire need of supplies of food and medicines and medical equipment, while we are trying to combat this pandemic. I hope that the colleagues here today at this summit, at their own level and at the international level, would support these ideas. Thank you very much, President Xi Jinping, for your statements. Now I give the floor to President Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil.
Passo a palavra agora ao presidente brasileiro Jair Bolsonaro.
Sua Excelência,
Your Excellency, President Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the South African Republic, whom I would like to greet for your birthday today, Your Excellency, Mr. Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, Your Excellency, Mr. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of the Republic of India. As regards all matters addressed here so far, we are fully in harmony and fully committed to fighting terrorism and in our pursuit of a safe, effective vaccine against COVID-19. Brazil, likewise, is working and seeking out to develop its own vaccine. We remain committed and do have actions in place regarding lowering carbon emissions. And a very unique matter to Brazil, considering the unjustifiable attacks we have recently suffered regarding our Amazonian region. The Brazilian Federal Police Service has now developed the use of DNA-type stable isotopes to allow traceability of Brazilian wood, and where it was cleared and also where it has been exported to. So we will soon disclose the actual names of the countries that have imported illegal wood from Brazil by means of that new technology. We have no sound support in the English booth anymore. We have no sound support in the English booth anymore. Não, me dá seu fone isso. Isso aqui, olha isso aqui, vem para concentrar isso aqui. Não tem som aqui. Não tem som aqui. Você está ouvindo alguma coisa?
Não.
Não é não. Não, esse som está entrecortado.
Não,
On and off. Entrecortado.
Probably there is an issue with interpretation in audio signal coming from Brazil. There is a technical issue. We'll wait for our Brazilian partners and friends to fix the interpretation from Portuguese into English. We'll wait just a second for them to fix that.
Okay, we're going to just come out of that 12th virtual BRICS Summit. There, of course, the leaders of the 5 BRICS nations there, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, all indeed speaking about collaborative efforts in trying to curb not just the pandemic, but also social and economic issues as well that have certainly plagued the world globally as well. We continue to hopefully create a new order is what they're trying to create as well, over and above that has been created so far. Even President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, making note there. The theme across the BRICS Summit this year, partnership for global stability, shared security and innovative growth. All of this happens then on the heels of South Africa's 3rd investment conference, which also kicks off today. In fact, now is the start of the first plenary session then on day 1 of that investment conference. It is the 3rd investment conference then that is happening in South Africa, and hopefully we will get a little more word with regards to not just the promises, but so far how things have gone. President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday saying that around 10% of the promises that were set in the previous conferences have actually been affected in some way, but they hope that implementation will be the name of the game this time around. We're going to come back then after a short little break and continue with more news headlines right after this. Stay tuned. You're on point.